All right, let's talk about a frustration I know many of you have faced. You're deep into a project, you need to connect your computer to some local device, and bam, your main internet connection just vanishes at the worst possible time. Well, today we're going to fix that. With a solution that is surprisingly simple, let's get into it.
You know the dilemma. You're trying to work on something on a local network. Maybe you're setting up a new router or pushing code to a smart device like an ESP32. But you also need to be on that Teams call or looking something up online. Why on earth should you have to choose between them? And this happens all the time, right? On one hand, you're in the middle of a video call, maybe you're streaming some music to help you focus. On the other, your project needs its own private connection. The second you connect to that project, poof, everything else just grinds to a halt. So let's just call it what it is, the one connection problem. It's that moment where your computer has to pick a side, and it almost always defaults to that local network, completely kicking your internet connection to the curb. You click connect to your device's Wi-Fi, and then, silence. The music stops playing. Your video call freezes up. That big file you were downloading fails. It's an instant workflow killer, and it is so frustrating. But what if I told you there's a fix? A way to have both of those connections running at the exact same time, without messing around with complicated software or network settings. And you know the best part? It's incredibly cheap and super easy to do. I'm serious, you don't need to be a network engineer for this one. There's no digging around in command prompts or anything like that. The solution is just some good old-fashioned hardware. And here it is. The hero of our story is this humble little gadget, a standard USB Wi-Fi adapter. Just think of it as a second wireless card for your computer, all packed into this tiny little stick. And when we say cheap, we really mean it. This one costs just €7.80. That's less than a couple of fancy coffees for a permanent fix to a daily headache. So the most important thing here is just how simple this is. It's cheap, it's true plug and play. And if you're running a modern OS like Windows 10, you don't even have to go hunting for drivers. You literally just plug it in and it works.
All right, so you've got your adapter. How do we actually put this thing to work? Well, the setup could not be more straightforward.
It is genuinely this easy. First, you plug the adapter into a spare USB port. Windows automatically sees it, and a new option, WLAN 2, just pops up in your network list. Then, you use that new adapter to connect to your project, which leaves your main Wi-Fi completely free for the internet. And here's what it looks like in the end. Your first adapter, WLAN 1, is happily connected to your internet router. Your new adapter, WLAN 2, is dedicated to your project. You now have two networks running at the exact same time. It's perfect.
Okay, but how does Windows know which connection to use for what? How does it not get totally confused? Well, the answer is actually beautifully logical and really simple. It all comes down to the IP address range. The easiest way to think about this is like a postal code. Every network has its own unique range of addresses, and that tells your computer what digital neighborhood it's currently talking to.
So for example, your home internet router might be in the 192.168.178 neighborhood, but your ESP32 project, it creates its own little network over in the 192.168.4 neighborhood. Because those numbers are different, Windows sees them as two totally separate places. And because those network postal codes are so distinct, Windows doesn't get confused at all. When you type google.com, it knows that address isn't in the local device's neighborhood, so it automatically sends that request out through your internet connection. It's just smart routing, and it happens automatically. And really, that's the whole trick. You've solved that big one connection problem with a cheap piece of hardware and a really basic networking principle. Two networks, zero hassle. I love this quote from the original video because it perfectly captures that aha moment of triumph. You can open up a browser and search Google while at the same time pulling files from the local server on your project. Everything just works, side by side. The payoff for your workflow here is huge. You can stay online while you're developing, your calls and music never get interrupted again, and you create this totally seamless work environment. It's a simple change that can seriously boost your productivity. So, with this little trick, you've essentially given your computer the power to be in two digital places at once. It's connected to your local creation and to the entire world, simultaneously. So the only question left is, what are you going to build with that new power?